Whoop. Helen Brahms coming to you live from Parapara Umu in New Zealand. Oh my gosh, I can't remember I did that. Welcome to Porchlight Letters podcast number 2316, Rediscovering New Zealand. Woohoo! So what's happening here is that we are changing the podcast a little bit. We're still going to have some Porchlight Letter stuff that we have been doing. We're going to be moving into another area on Rediscovering New Zealand. This is a dream that I've had, an idea that I've been working on since before I came back to New Zealand, that how cool would it be that after 28 and a half years away from New Zealand, moving back to New Zealand and rediscovering places I've visited, places I have lived, seeing the changes that are going on. You know, in almost 30 years, there's been a lot of changes. And some things is very familiar. There's a very familiar feel. There's a really cool vibe here, but there's a lot of stuff that's also changed and is so different. So this is our kickoff for Rediscovering New Zealand. We will be doing these episodes every now and again. And when I do some of these, like if you're paying attention over the weekend, there were some lives that just popped up and were just random lives. They weren't at a set time and date. It was just whenever I get to do it, I'm doing it. And that's because we were up in Tauranga visiting my brother and his family. So on the times that we weren't with them, we were out and about and exploring Tauranga and getting reacquainted with it. And, you know, there was familiar stuff there. There was a lot of new stuff there. And then when we went over to Hamilton, we went to Hamilton Gardens. Now, we couldn't get in like we could before because when I was last there 6 years ago, it was free entry to everybody. Now, only local residents get free entry and everybody else is charged. But the area we did walk was a free area because it was part of the where the cafe was and that sort of thing. So when I'm going to be out and about and doing random things, there's going to be a Rediscovering New Zealand episode that's going to occur, just to give you a heads up in the morning. So for today, I'm going to go back here. So coming home after almost 3 decades, it's been a revelation. The streets feel familiar, but I've changed, and so has New Zealand. So, you know, I'm not the 30-year-old I was when I left 28 and a half years ago. Actually, almost 29, almost 29 years ago. February 23rd is when I arrived in New Zealand. Sorry, in the States. February 23rd, 1997 is when I moved to the States. So it's going to be very, very, there's a very different vibe. Every time I came home for a visit, you could feel some of the vibes, you could see some of the changes, but you didn't really notice them as much because I was here as a visitor and I was getting to show Brad all about New Zealand. You know, he only got to come over a couple of times, but we covered a lot of ground during that time, a lot. But seeing things that have taken place, like I was shocked when we were driving up to up and around Tauranga and Hamilton. I was shocked with, you know, there's a Subway. There's now Subways in New Zealand. There's Burger King. McDonald's has been here for years. I can even take you to the very first McDonald's that opened in New Zealand. I don't know if it's still there, but we didn't live very far away from it. At the time I was, I was about 7 or 8 when it came into New Zealand. I can take you to the spot where the very first one was. If it's still there, I can show you the very first one. Actually, I might do that the next time we go to Porirua. Yeah, I can show you the very first one. And I will tell you this, when I was in the Air Force, I was based down in Christchurch at RNZ Air Base Wigram. It no longer exists. They closed the base down years ago and repurposed it for housing. But anybody who was going up to Wellington got orders from people of what McDonald's meals they wanted brought back. And then somebody would do a run out to McDonald's and pick up the meals and bring them back. And people did not care if they were cold. And this is back in the 1980s. And it had opened, the late 70s or early 80s. Hang on, when we were in Porirua. That would have been before, mid-70s is when it opened in New Zealand. So McDonald's already here. But since then, we've got Denny's, Burger King, Popeyes has just started opening in New Zealand. KFC was a big one. Hang on, let me go through them again. Burger King, Subway, Popeyes, KFC. KFC's been here for years. It was here long before I left. Denny's was here as well. They have Costco here now in New Zealand. They've got one which is up in Auckland, and they're going to be opening a second one on the southern end of Auckland. And I was like, bring it down to Wellington, please, 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 please. IKEA is opening today. Yeah, today's December 4th. I think today was it's December 4th here in New Zealand, because we're a day ahead of the US. I think it's today that IKEA is opening its first store in New Zealand. I know that's not American, but you see them everywhere in America. What else is here that I've noticed that's come from? Oh, Starbucks is fine in New Zealand, which I was kind of like, really? Starbucks? I will tell you this, throughout New Zealand, we have a lot of cafes and coffee places. You go into downtown Wellington and they've got this whole area where you can go, and there's different cafes. You can go down alleyways and there's cafe windows you can walk up to get your takeaway coffee from, so you don't have to go inside the store. You just walk up to this window, place your order, and off you go. And I'm like, wow. So Starbucks had won a very hard battle to get into New Zealand, because last I heard, Starbucks wasn't allowed in New Zealand, or New Zealanders didn't want it, but now it's here. And I'm so like, really? Sorry to the Starbucks fans. I'm trying to think what else is down here. Oh, I saw Krispy Kremes in the supermarket, but I don't know if we actually have a Krispy Kreme store here. We might have, I don't know. I got to investigate that one, but I saw Krispy Kremes in the supermarket the other day, and I was like, they're here? Really? Interesting. So these are some of the changes that have occurred over the last few years, and I'm sort of like, oh my gosh. Oh, and Domino's Pizza was here as well. That's the other one. Because I saw the commercials on TV for it the other night. Well, mum and dad watch the news at 6 o'clock every night, and that's when we have our dinner on our laps in the living room watching the news. So guess where I sit for dinner? And the ads are running, and Domino's was on there, and I'm like, you guys have Domino's? And we've had Pizza Hut for years, but now they have Domino's here as well. And I'm like, really? Okay. I want to keep it more local and everything else, but yeah, no, not happening. So with all of these changes and everything, being able, I've changed, New Zealand has changed. Do we still fit together? So far, absolutely. But, rediscovery is a chance to reintroduce myself to my roots, or introduce yourself to your roots. Familiar places hold new meanings when viewed through fresh eyes. So I'm going to be looking at everything, not through the eyes of a child or a teenager or a young adult. I'm going to be looking through the eyes of I'll be 59 next week, 59-year-old, turning 60 next year. So very, very different eyes after 30 years away. It's going to be very, very different. Change is constant, and so is the sense of belonging. Nostalgia can be both comforting and illuminating. I remember when I was in New Zealand in 2018, and it was my 20th wedding anniversary. Brad had been gone in 2018. He'd been gone just over a year. And because he missed our wedding anniversary is December 28th. So he had passed in September of 2017. So just shy of 19 years we'd been married before he passed. And so on the 28th of December of 2018, I'm here in New Zealand, and we did this road trip. We went up to Bulls because they had renamed some of the stores. I found those photos the other day too. And incorporated the town name into them. And very, very, very clever things. And there's these statues of bulls all over Bulls. Bulls is the town name. Then we left there and we came down to Sanson. On the way to Sanson, we stopped off at Viv's, which has the cream horns there. And they are amazing. I'm going to have to find my pictures from those trips and start reposting them. Then we went from Sanson through to Fielding, had a drive around there, saw the house we used to live in, saw the 2 schools I attended while I was there. Then we drove through to Palmerston North, which is actually where I was born in New Zealand. And I've been told that the building that I was born in, which I have actually been in as an adult, has now been torn down and something else has been put in its place at Palmerston North Hospital. So we went to visit a friend of ours, a friend of Mum and Dad's, that was in the hospital. And we went through this door, and my mum pointed to a door and says, that's where your dad paced up and down, and it had father's waiting room on the door. Then when we went to walk into the ward where their friend was, there was this little room at the front that had all these chairs and stuff in it. And she says, and this is where the dads would come to view the babies. And the nurses would bring the babies up into this viewing room, and the fathers could look through the glass and see the babies there. And she said, and this here used to be all, and now it's full of hospital beds. It used to be all full of cribs. And there was this semicircle sunroom at the end. And she says, that's where we put all the jaundice babies so they would get the sunlight coming in on them. And then she looks out the window and she says, see that window up there on the, I think it was the 3rd floor at the end there. I says, yep. She says, that's where I got moved to, because my mum was a nurse at the hospital. And I can't remember what I think she might have been a sister at the time, but the matron came in and saw mum in the general ward and says, no, this will not do, and moved me and my mum to a private room. And she says, that window up there is the private room that we got moved to. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. I have no recollection of this time, but it was really cool to hear these stories. And so we visited with a friend and got a bit of nostalgia there as well. So that was pretty cool. But apparently that building has now been torn down and replaced with something else on the hospital grounds. You'll have to excuse me. I've got a really hoarse throat today. We're coughing a lot. So I thought at the beginning, these are some of the things that we're going to be telling you. Oh, so anyway, after we visited we drove, and we didn't go to the hospital that time. We drove into downtown, and I'm like looking around, and I can't find the Palmerston North Opera House. I have to tell you, I have some very, very great memories of the Palmerston North Opera House. My grandparents were members of the Operatic Society, and so they got first dibs on tickets for any event that was going to take place. And often they took Marie, who was a very, very dear friend of mine, almost like a sister. She was a foster child that my grandparents had since she was a baby. And so I often, when we were living in Fielding, I often went over for weekends and stayed there. And we had great times, and we'd go out to the opera that night, and they would see some musical that was on. I saw Half a Sixpence. I saw Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I saw Showboat. What was some of the other ones we saw? They had these dance competitions, so we were able to go in during the day. We'd walk down there during the day and go and watch these dance competitions that were on, because you only needed tickets for the evening shows when they did the finales and that sort of stuff. So we went and watched all of the prelims for all of that. We saw Dick Whittington and his cat there. A lot of different musicals and pantomimes we saw at the Opera House. We just had a blast going there. And we always had a really good time, and there were really great shows and everything. And so I was looking around and going, well, where's the Opera House? And Mum says, see the shopping mall over there? I go, yeah. She says, they tore it down and put that shopping mall in its place. I'm like, I was very upset about that, because I had such fond memories of this place. But what was really cool is that we were in the town, in the Palmerston North Square, in the square in Palmerston North there. It's kind of the centre of the town. And they have this big clock tower up there. And then they had the Christmas tree was still up, because it was December 28th. And in front of this Christmas tree was this rose garden that had one colour rose. That rose colour happened to be the same rose colour that I had for my wedding, which was this very pale purple. And I looked at these flowers and I went, wow. And I said to Mum, I says, do you recognise these roses? And she goes, no, should I? I said, they're the same roses that I had in my bouquet when Brad and I got married 20 years ago today. And that's when they clicked that it was my 20th wedding anniversary. So to see those roses there, it was, even thinking about it, so it was a little emotional. But we walking around, there's this big, huge shopping mall there now. And I'm sort of like, I really don't like the shopping mall. I like the stuff that used to be there. But there were still some of the same old stores that were there, and just new what do you call it, stock inventory in the stores. That's basically the difference. So I thought for today it would be really cool to go through some of the fun facts about New Zealand. Just a little ones. So fun facts about New Zealand. It was the first country to give women the vote in 1893. And I'm trying to remember when America got the vote. I think it was like the 1930s when women in America got given the vote. There are no snakes in New Zealand. We are snake free. We are wild animal free. There's no lions, no bears, no wolves, no tigers, no mountain lions, pumas, none of that. Sheep outnumber the people at more than 5 to 1. We have a population of 5 million. Do the math. Of how many sheep we've got. You can ski and surf in the same day. Totally doable. You can be up on the mountain in the Southern Alps there skiing in the day. Even up in Taranaki, on Mount Taranaki, you can be up there skiing in the day. Mount Ruapehu might be a little stretch, but our ski fields are, we do have world-class skiing down here. We have skiing competitions world skiing competitions have been held down here, snowboarding as well. And during the off season, because we're opposite seasons, so we're currently in summer, and but during our winter season, which is summer in the Northern Hemisphere, we have a lot of the skiers, the professional skiers, come down here to do off-season training down here in New Zealand on our slopes, and they also do Australia as well. Excuse me. So yeah, so you can actually ski in the morning and go down and go surfing in the afternoon. We have the longest place name in the world, and I am not even going to attempt to say it because it is it takes up a whole fence. They have a fence with it on, but it's up in the Hawke's Bay area. It's a Maori name for a hill that's near Hawke's Bay, and it has the longest place name in the world. And I'm not even going to attempt to say it because I would totally screw it up, which to me would be disrespectful to the Maori culture, to the Maori people. We have glowworm caves that light up like the stars. You go in there and you look like it's looking at a galaxy up on the roofs of the caves and things. We are home. New Zealand is home to the world's smallest dolphin, which is the Hector's dolphin. You see them down around Christchurch and out there on the peninsula. Excuse me, on the Banks Peninsula, which is down near Christchurch. We are also home to a wide variety of penguins, from the smallest penguin, the blue penguin, through to the endangered yellow-eyed penguin. You can see them around New Zealand. Our national bird is the kiwi, which is a bird. And I don't have Casey Kiwi with. I can show you what a kiwi looks like. Hang on. I just have to do some, because I got this really cool envelope from my friend in Canada. Unfortunately, yeah, the picture. But this is what a kiwi looks like. It's got these little short stout legs which actually go through the address area so you can't see them. Actually, I think she put one on the inside of the card as well, didn't she? Oh, no, she didn't. But important facts about the kiwi. They're the only bird in the world that has nostrils on the end of its beak because they are ground creatures. They don't fly. They have very tiny wings. But these nostrils allow them to forage through the what's on the forest floors and find the grubs and bugs and all that sort of thing. You notice they have whiskers. They're the only bird in the world that has whiskers. Another cool fact is their feathers actually feel like fur. And here is the most surprising fact about a kiwi. And I am so glad I am not a female kiwi. Their eggs per body ratio, the size of their eggs per body ratio are the largest in the world. I know ostrich has the largest egg, but when it comes to an egg to body ratio, kiwi wins. When you see a pregnant kiwi, the egg is taking up probably about a third of its body. Yeah, and they actually happen to capture, which they have never done before, they actually happen to capture on video a kiwi laying an egg. It was frightening. The kiwi fruit, which is which used to be a Chinese gooseberry, is named after the kiwi, after the bird, because they seem to think that the brown skin on it with its like furry feel resembled a kiwi. I don't know. But anybody from New Zealand, we're known as kiwis as well. And then we have Whittaker's chocolate, which it used to be Cadbury's until they changed their formula. And people didn't like the new formula because they started putting oil in there instead of milk. And Cadbury's slogan here in New Zealand used to be 1.5 glasses of full cream milk in every bar of Cadbury's chocolate. They went away from that. Very silly idea to do, but Whittaker's has stepped up. Now, Whittaker's have these really cool things called peanut slabs. They're about this long. They're about this wide, and they're about this thick, and they've got peanuts. We also have almond ones as well now too, some sort of thing. Actually, I have been really, really good of not, like I've seen the candy that I loved as a kid, and I've been very good about not jumping in there and grabbing all this, all the kiwis, like the licorice all sorts. Licorice all sorts in the States have no flavor. Here in New Zealand, every color is a flavor in the licorice all sorts. If you got pink, it's raspberry. If you got white, it's coconut. If you've got yellow, it's banana. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've had licorice also. But I used to peel the layers off so I could taste the individual layers because they all were different flavors. I've been walking around this. Oh, and the kids. I was at my brother's place the other day, and one of my nephews was sitting there, and he just had a minty. And a minty is a chewy candy that's in a wrapper. And actually, this one here, this will work. Actually, I can't do it on this one, but so it comes in a wrapper, and it's white with green on it, and it's got Minties written on it. But and I can't do this with this one because this is not made of paper, and it's made of wax paper. And what we used to do as kids is that we would start tearing it along the edge, and we would just keep going around the edge until we got to the middle and see who could make the longest single wrapper by tearing the wrapper into this one long strand, who can make the longest strand from the wrapper. So I was telling my nephew this, so he sits there and starts ripping the thing, and my brother comes on, sits down and goes, oh, yeah, he says, how long can you make how long? And he immediately knew what his son was doing, but he'd never told his son that one before, so that was pretty cool to give him that. But Whittaker's chocolate has overtaken Cadbury's chocolate as the favorite chocolate now, and I have to tell you, it's pretty good. They've got some new flavors that I need to go try, but again, I am being very good. I know I'm a chocoholic. I have my Fruz balls, which I have chocolate and hazelnut, and I have chocolate and raspberry, the two Fruz ball flavors that I have right now. So I have my daily dose of chocolate with those, but I haven't got any chocolate in the refrigerator on a chocolate shelf or anything like that. I'm waiting until I get to my own place, so I know my chocolate is safe, although it's pretty safe here. So it's pretty good. Yeah, so that, just those little things. And walking into a supermarket, actually, next time I go to a supermarket, I might take you guys along with me and show you some of the New Zealand things that we've got. I'm also noticing there's some American brands and cereal coming onto the shelves here, and I'm sort of like, yeah, I really don't want those here. So I've noticed that there's a few American stuff sneaking in. And then my favorite ginger beer. Yeah, we get ginger beer down here, and it's non-alcoholic. But my favorite ginger beer is, I can see the bottle, it's brown. Buttonberg. Buttonberg? What is it? Bundaberg. So Bundaberg is an Australian brand, but they make a really good ginger beer, which I absolutely love. Now, we used to have one that came in a can. It was a white can, and it didn't matter which way you turned it. There was always a chef's head on the can. So you'd look at this thing and you'll see the chef have this hat on, and then it'll come down and then there'll be his chin. But if you turn the can upside down, you saw the same picture. It was really cool. I don't know if they still have that brand because I don't remember what that brand's called. But Bundaberg is one of my favorite ones, and I found out over the weekend they come in. They now have not only have the ginger beer, but I tried a lemon, lime, and bitters, which was really good. And they have other flavors now, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting because I never knew them to have that one. Tip Top ice cream still here, still the same thing. Can't wait to get some Hokey Pokey ice cream. My mum hates Hokey Pokey, and Hokey Pokey is basically sugar, golden syrup melted together until it gets to a certain point. And then you have to be extremely quick. You have to have a very, very, very greased pan for this to go into. It doesn't work on parchment paper. It will stick to parchment paper. So you have to grease up a pan really, 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 really well. And the recipe is basically sugar and golden syrup, which is totally different to Karo syrup. Everybody kept telling me, oh, you just use Karo syrup. Yeah, no, they are completely different. But you'd mix up the golden syrup, and in some stores in the US, you can find, like World Market sometimes has golden syrup. But any store that imports stuff from England and stuff will have golden syrup as well. But you'd get the golden syrup and the sugar, melt it in the pot there until it gets to a certain point. Then you very quickly toss in some sodium, some baking soda, and whip it really fast, because what it does is that it takes it from this molten thing to this frothy stuff that as soon as you mix it, and you got to mix it really fast and then get it into that grease pan ASAP. Like, it is a very fast. Once you add that baking soda, you have no time. It's mix it as fast as you can and get it into the thing. And then it just kind of foams up and becomes this foam that sets rock hard, and that's Hokey Pokey. And then they break it up, they put it into ice cream and all of that sort of thing. You'll find crunchy bars, Hokey Pokey bars that have been dipped in chocolate. The Australian version of that is called a violet crumble. So if you've seen that around as well, then you can get that. What else? They're kind of like the malt balls that you get in the States, but without the malt flavor. Yeah, that's how I can describe the insides of them. But they break this up and they put it in ice cream, and it's really, really delicious. And my mother hates it. Doesn't like hokey pokey at all. So yeah, so those are some fun facts about New Zealand. So when we rediscovery as a practice is not a one-time thing. It is an ongoing thing. As you're New Zealand's not a large country. People say it's the same size as California. No, it's not. California has way more landmass than New Zealand does. New Zealand's landmass is within a few square miles of Colorado. So Colorado and New Zealand actually have almost the same landmass. Stretch it out lengthwise, we're the same size as the UK, but with less people and more sheep. 5 million people in our country, that's it. So it's not that crowded. Letting go of what was makes room for what is. So when you're rediscovering, let go of what it was, remember it, have that nostalgic moment, but then make room for what it is now. You can revisit the past without living in it. Curiosity opens more doors than a memory ever could. So you now got a curiosity thing of, oh, what have they done over here? What used to be? Oh, that's right. That's what used to be there. Now they've got oh, that's interesting. Like the town, the one town that I was at for high school, they had a big freezing works there. Well, now the freezing works is closed down. So I'm curious to go back to see what they have done with the old freezing works building. Have they turned it into something else? Or is it just sitting there degrading? Because I don't know how long ago they closed it. With your legacy connection, when you're returning to where your story began, you can deepen your understanding of who you are. Your ancestral footprints live in the landscapes, buildings, and the local stores. So when you're going back to those places, like we've been back and visited the farm that my great aunt and uncle had. I always remember this big kitchen that she had, and my dad's cousin took me over to the house, and we looked through the kitchen, and I'm like, that is so tiny. Yet I remember it being so large because she had the big coal range, which she used to cook in. And she had this drying rack above it that she would lower down, put all the laundry on it and put it back up. And then the heat would rise out of the fire and heat and dry the clothes. She had the sink over there, which I thought was a big bench with the slots above where all the plates went. And there was this big table that went in this corner over here that had bench seating on either side and chairs at either end. And we used to sit at that and we worked out, and between Wally and I and whoever else was at that meal, that we had 14 people around that table. What was really cool is that evening when we were sat down at the table, Wally finally told me, he says, this table used to be a mum's kitchen. And I'm like, this is the table we all sat around that time. And so we did the math. There was 5 of us, my mum, dad, myself, and my 2 brothers. There was him and his wife and their 3 boys. So that's 10. Then there was my great aunt and uncle. So there's another 12. And we figured out we had like 14 to 16 people around this table. And we're sitting at this table right now, and we had like 7 or 8, no, not 7 or 8. We had about 9 people around the table, and it was feeling pretty cramped. I was like, man, we got 14 people around this table. It was really cool, that nostalgia thing. And then it brought up stories and memories, and we started sharing stories and memories. And that's part of that legacy thing, remembering the stories. Sometimes the best way to honor the past is to walk through it. Rediscovering a place can unlock pieces of your family's legacy. It can give you things to remember. It can give you things, a prompt story, remind you of stories, and now you're sharing those stories with future generations and writing them down for future generations as well. Okay, I still have reflection questions for you. You're still going to get those. Number 1, what's one place you've wanted to revisit and why? Number 2, how has your perspective changed since the last time you were home? What's something old you could explore with new curiosity? That's a good question. What story from your family's history would you love to walk through in person? And with that, your closing thought for today is rediscovery isn't about geography. It's about growth, gratitude, and glimpses of who we've become along the way. And with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we'll be back tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hei konera.